Thanks for joining today's on-demand webinar featuring Mary Kay Schultens, Allianz Vice President of Strategic Data Sourcing, as she explains cross-device and anonymous to known identification.
Thanks, Jill. Welcome and thanks for tuning in. Today we will talk about how to complete a holistic view of the customer by leveraging cross-device identification techniques, identity graphs, and linking technologies. As you are well aware of, technology advancements have been helping us rein in the problem of identifying customers with multiple device touchpoints and different identifiers across siloed systems within an organization. So let's begin. To achieve a comprehensive view of customer and prospects, a common set of identifiers must be assigned to core pieces of data on each record of the multiple disparate data sources to correctly identify the consumer at each touchpoint. When this is done, we can start to know who each customer really is and what they are trying to tell us as one clearly identified person. The process of bringing data from various touchpoints and sources, both internal and external, together into a holistic view is a challenge for many organizations, as is well depicted in this slide. Key to creating this holistic view is identifying anonymous consumers, both prospects and customers, to known entities, and this entails identifying and linking data across all customer touchpoints and all the organizational systems, which are often siloed. A 2016 Forrester report stated, "A consolidated identity supports consumer recognition and addressability across touchpoints. Profiles unite identity and descriptive information about the consumer to support contextual marketing. You must build profiles by aggregating device and channel data, behavior and interactions, self-submitted information, purchase and customer data, and third-party data sources." As this slide illustrates, we start with inferred probabilistic identification, continue to build upon the identity until enough data is collected and stitched together to create a full customer or prospect identity. As we look at the top left-hand corner of the slide, the process of identifying anonymous interactions to known interactions starts with the collection of inferred or probabilistic data, such as location and device data. As we move to the right, with the collection of tracking data, such as cookies, with permission of course, search history, and session history, the identity starts to develop through this digital tracking. As we continue to move through identity resolution, we begin to add in data that partially identifies the consumer. This is data that is provided by the consumer to the brand in order to gain better offers or services. This is also known as zero-party data. Emails, social handles, and birth dates are good examples. The identity starts to come together through cross-device identification and leveraging terrestrial and digital identity graphs until the full identity is confirmed with the consumer through captured or consumer supply, PII, zero, or first-party data. Finally, the identity is realized by stitching together all disparate data parts to create the full customer or prospect identity, creating a holistic view to support customer personalization. The first step in creating a holistic identity is the process of identifying unknown to known consumers leveraging a cross-device identification methodology, or what we like to call XD-ID. Marketers strive to understand customers by achieving single, unified profiles of them. When consumers began using multiple devices to engage with the brand, the goal became more challenging. Cross-device identification changes everything. The days of depending on web-based cookies to follow customers' buying behaviors are over. Consumers in 2020 are using as many as 5 different digital devices for e-commerce. Think about all your devices, your mobile phone, a tablet, your work desktop, or your personal laptop, just to name a few. We may even switch devices multiple times in just 1 hour. XD-ID is achieved by linking a consumer's multiple devices to one identity and piecing the fragmented data together. And voila, a complete view of your customer is achieved. by linking it all together to enhance your marketing programs and inform personalization. You might be asking yourself how this can be done. Cross-device identification currently applies two approaches to form a customer identity: probabilistic and deterministic. The probabilistic method uses algorithms to deduce the likelihood that different devices represent the same person. It achieves this by interpreting anonymous information such as an individual's IP address, physical address, or zip-4, and the browser type. If the algorithm determines these factors are similar enough, it will define the identity as one person. Because the method relies on being probable as opposed to specific, it may be less certain, but it can also be more adaptive. For example, targeting larger audiences for the digital ads. The deterministic approach matches a user to a precise identifier, such as an app ID, an email address, or a social media login. Because this approach aims for exact pairings, it provides a more accurate and scalable view of the customer, which can be ideal for direct, personalized communications. Many thought leaders recommend combining the probabilistic and deterministic method to balance the narrow focus of exact insights with a broader view of informed guesswork. What is cross-device identification? At the simplest level, it is identifying website visitors or app users to gain insights into their behavior and connecting this information to offline data, creating the holistic view of them and using this data to engage them at the right time with the right message, the right offer, and the right channel, all without being creepy. Now you may ask, how can this be done? Alant's cross-device technique enables this to be done seamlessly. A new derivative technology allows us to capture anonymous web visitor traffic and convert it into known entities. How does it work? It uses captured IP address, device ID, tag or pixel, which is just a line of embedded website code, to capture visitors at that digital touchpoint. We then apply a reverse match and convert those sites' visitors to name and address. This data can then be leveraged to feed into brands' CRM or directly used for postal, digital, or email campaigns. You may be asking yourself, what does this all mean to me or the brand? Here are the key benefits. Most importantly, it creates actionable data by capturing and converting anonymous digital traffic into identifiable consumers, who then can be identified as your customers or prospects. Another benefit is that it's privacy compliant. Our cross-device identification techniques keep digital identifiers and names and addresses in separate environments, keeping the consumer's privacy protected and not allowing brands to tie names and addresses back to digital identifiers. It provides an evergreen source for cross-device identification. It can be deployed on single or multiple landing pages, and it can be run all year to feed leads into existing campaigns. It also enables personalization. By leveraging the new data now linked to a consumer, brands can link these prospects or customers to first-party or third-party data or custom models. These records can also be enriched and appended to create thresholds for contact and offer versioning. XDID allows retargeting within the digital channels and also enables these audiences to be reached via postal or email channels. Last but not least, XDID enables multi-touch attribution, allowing for matchback of converted names to measure campaign effectiveness or ROI and identify which campaigns are performing better. As previously mentioned, the first step in creating a holistic view of your customer is completed by cross-device identification. The next step is leveraging this information to create a holistic view across your entire organization. This can be completed by leveraging an identity graph. Identification is completed by leveraging a bidirectional crosswalk that bridges physical and digital identities. As we look at the diagram, starting on the left, we see a depiction of a terrestrial identity graph. This is a type of identification we are all familiar with, starting with any personally identifiable information, PII, as simple as an email, phone number, name, address, and applying a unique persistent identifier at the individual level, and then linking those identifiers to a household. Now moving to the right box, we see how to leverage a digital identity graph to create a crosswalk between cookies, maids, and hashed emails using cross-device identification that we discussed earlier, and applying an individual digital persistent ID to the consumer and then linking those to the household. The middle box illustrates how within an identity graph, the terrestrial IDs and digital IDs are married using the primary keys by optimizing a bidirectional crosswalk where any terrestrial ID key can be mapped to a digital ID key in a privacy-compliant and use case-specific manner, allowing to complete the holistic view of the customer. I know this may sound simple, but it's a little more complicated than it sounds. Let's take a quick look behind the scenes. This 2019 Forrester graph demonstrates the many touch points a consumer is able to use to interact with the brand. The bottom half depicts just a few of the identifiers, both digital and terrestrial, that could be captured during the customer journey. In this Forrester graph from the same 2019 article, you can see how identity graphs are created by cataloging information into categories such as persons, households, devices, and then sorts the captured identifiers into those categories and then builds those connections or linking across the captured identifiers. As a benchmark, leading identity graph providers can have as many as 50,000 rows to test and score before making a match with certainty. These graphs, along with cross-device identification, enable Allant to create a holistic view of your customers. According to the Association of National Advertisers, formerly known as the Direct Marketing Association, here are the best practices for laying the groundwork and completing and developing the holistic view of the customer. First, identify all first-party data that should potentially be included in the identity graph, including data from all your siloed systems. Next, identify a singular persistent authenticated identity marker to serve as a foundational identity data. This could be an email address, phone number, or a brand unique ID. Best choice is the ID marker with the largest scale. For example, for digital marketers, they would likely use email addresses. Allant uses its Identity Resolution Information System, also known as IRIS IDs, as a persistent ID within our identity graph. The ANA continues with its best practices by identifying the next step as evaluate gaps in identity data to determine the kinds of data you will need to ingest from all data sources to complete and confirm your identity graph. And finally, identify the kinds of attribute data you need to ingest to build and expand your customer profiles, including first-party transaction data, as well as additional demographic, behavioral, and purchasing data from third-party data sources. I love this slide, as it depicts how we feel as marketers trying to get all those anonymous and known fragmented views and touch points of the consumer put together to complete the holistic view of the customer. This is the goal of all marketers. Using cross-device identification and leveraging an identity graph allows us to achieve this goal, and we begin to understand the benefits it provides. Cross-device identification and identity graphs are key to accurate, personalized, omni-channel marketing, including inbound and outbound, analytics, segmentation, targeting, recognition, and personalization. They provide more accurate and complete data and also improves accuracy of automated messaging, AI, and machine learning. Cross-device identification and identity graphs are the key to optimizing your customers' experiences across multiple channels, enabling customer recognition regardless of how that customer interacts with the brand. It is also key to accurate metrics, measuring marketing efforts and attributing sales. And should be the foundation for analytics and data modeling, making future business decisions based on this data and intelligence. Thank you so much for your time today, and I will now turn it over to Jill, who has a few closing comments. Jill?
We hope you enjoyed today's presentation. Contact us today for a complimentary audit of your collection points, resulting in a document of understanding around your requirements. And feel free to reach out at any time with additional questions about cross-device or anonymous to known identification. You can reach us at alantgroup.com/contact or by calling our main office at 800-367-7311. Thanks again for your time today.